Okay, we're rolling. Fantastic. Guests, it's so lovely to have you here.
Thank you.
Right, they don't look like they're that happy to see you, but they really are. Right, you know, it really is. It's really special. In the old days, early days, I used to do the whole 4-hour meeting, and slowly people got bored of me, and they said, "Can we have someone else?" And by popular demand, we changed the format. But the genius slot was about us thinking of ourselves in our genius, in our flow, and if we were going to experiment or go into cutting edge territory with people, rather than one-on-one or discussing these things, actually get out there and talk about something cutting edge, something that can provoke, something that may have someone go away and look up an author or a speaker or look into a subject they hadn't thought about. So this isn't about convincing, it isn't about getting the buy-in or anything. It's just, hey, listen, this is something I want to share around the area, and quite often it may be something a bit experimental. Does that make sense? So think about, what would you talk about? What would you talk about? And we've had really interesting subjects. But I wanted, Gill and I have kind of been thinking about, how can we drive more value from us to us? As you can see, anyone within the community could be at the front of the room. This isn't BeCollaboration talking to you, this is the community talking to each other. Just happens to be me today. Yeah, makes sense. So, I was thinking about, what does performance mean to us? How do we relate to performance? And how do we have performance plateaus? Like we reach a certain level of performance and that becomes our new normal performance. 3 months later, last quarter's breakthrough is just standard now. Does that make sense? Yeah? And I was thinking about, how can we increase our performance in a way that is valuable to us, makes a difference, and create something for us in the future that wouldn't have existed. But is an intentional way of approaching your performance, as opposed to, I'm going around doing what I'm doing normally, but how can I produce an outcome that I'm not getting now? So does anyone have anything that they would love, a lift in performance in a certain area, what you're dealing with? Anyone got an example? This is the bit where you talk back. Plastic bag. Ping. No, you're all good then, yeah? Shall I just stop? Or
I've got something hot off the press, if you like.
Yeah.
Over the years, one of the ways I've attempted to market my business is through intermediaries, what I used to call third parties as a marketeer. But I just got an email from somebody who I messaged trade show who says, well, we've had a go at recommending third parties, kind of accountants, coaches and so on, and it didn't work. So my brain's clicking in going, but that doesn't have to be that way. They're missing out on something, and I want to have I was actually thinking that I'd see if I can get a meeting with them and support them in terms of how to make this work for their benefit. So that's where I've got to in my own thinking. This is relevant for everyone.
Yeah, I imagine it is.
We can all receive business through third-party support, if you like.
Yeah.
So the fact that you put this on the table has me thinking, well, let's open this up if you're up for it.
I am.
People are.
Yeah.
And because, it's not just a benefit to me, I think anyone in business can benefit.
Yeah, I'd agree. So could you sum that up? There's a certain performance plateau.
Well, it's kind of a door closed. Sorry, we've tried this.
Yeah, so it's worse than that. It's dropped off at the plateau.
They've tried to close the door, but I mean,
not just coaches, but anyone here doing some kind of consultancy work, you can see how that would be a benefit to have that kind of impact, to create that for other people that could, interact with your business and work, and vice versa, I imagine.
It's a collaboration as well, isn't it? So, they're not just recommending to do you a favour. The recommendation is a benefit to them. Let's say they were accountants, actually, this is not my kind of angels. But it could be angels, accountants, whatever. So if they're bringing in other people and that's benefiting their clients, that is in their interest.
Totally.
They clearly missed that one.
Would you, going into, because accountants was a territory Jill and I spent a lot of time, and I've been very successful with some, and some didn't get anywhere. And I'd say, for me, my experience with accountants, for example, is there's a lot of left brain thinking going on there, and not in the abundant mindset, and they're probably more thinking about risks rather than opportunity, maybe. But rather than getting specific, yeah, it is a general thing, because it's the fear of loss, or the fear of what how could I lose out of this. But I think sometimes we don't want to help people because it would maybe mean something detrimental, you know, if we're really honest.
I just don't fully understand what you're saying. Are you saying that you encountered someone who is trying to get referrals with a third party? I don't fully understand.
I was at a trade. I mean, let's use accountants as examples. I have over the years worked with accountants, but I've also had accountants kind of block my attempts to work with them. And the idea, I mean, my core work, like yours, is as a coach. And as coaches, we support businesses to be more successful. Now, accountants, you would have thought, want to support their clients to be successful. But a lot of them go, no, we don't do that. So that's the door closed. And
So, in other words, they wouldn't refer you to one of their clients? Is that
because
what you're saying?
they don't do that. That's the reason.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Let's just
Does that make sense?
let's move on, because I've only got half an hour or 25 minutes. Right. So good. Yes. But that's an example. But has everyone got any other examples that you're grappling with, that you want to? There's a level of performance you've got that isn't inspiring you now. Is there an area? Could be business. It could be anything. Are you guys shy or something?
You don't like my idea.
No. I just want to make sure everyone's involved. I know that one quite well, by the way. I've been dealing with a
I mean, we're trying to improve performance, but it's kind of an ongoing thing. So I couldn't take an example, but we just say it's an ongoing thing. We're trying to get performance.
Okay. Really does help to get a bit more specific, and I'll tell you why. So if you think about maybe your conversion rate, or lead generating, or customer satisfaction, or customers dropping off the end of your pipeline, or new referrals, could be anything. I'm talking performance across the board. This isn't just about business performance, but we were kind of drilling down more into business performance. Okay, cool. All right. Well, look, I looked up performance, right, and I'm not really interested in any of it other than this word here, accomplishment. Accomplishing something that's important to us. And I imagine, no matter how shallow you may be or not be, or how deep, on a level, getting referrals helps you deliver what you want to deliver. And
I don't call it referrals, I call it collaborations.
Fine. Well, let's stick to referral, right, for a second, right? I'll tell you why. Because I'm looking for a business benefit rather than, because I would say collaboration look different. If you was working with an accountancy firm, so I've worked with accountants quite a bit. So if I was collaborating with them, we'd be doing programs together and seminars and events and creating content, and we'd be working in a more joint way as opposed to them just referring a client. But there's nothing wrong with that. But if they refer a client, on one level, there's the opportunity to earn an income and do what you do for a living. But on another level, there's something about delivering what we're passionate about, the difference we make to those businesses and organisations. I mean, at the heart of it, going back to intention and vision, I think what Stuart was really touching on is the things that really matter to us. Our own truth, expressing that and getting that, you know, it's like irrigation. Taking your what do they call it when you put watering can and going and irrigating people's businesses and their lives with our insight, whatever that might be. Because it makes a difference. It provides something. But I want to focus on accomplishment. Really knock out accomplishment, getting the result we want. Are you all interested in that? Are we interested in that?
Of course.
Tough crowd, Gill. Tough crowd today. Okay, right. So I want to introduce this notion of the drift. So in my research and my studies, I came across this concept that in our performance, there's a drift. There's the same old ordinary performance that we're performing at. And then we want extraordinary results. Make sense? So we say we want to, I don't know, increase a certain amount of leads, or get more clients, or be more effective, or lose some weight, or save some money. But the level we're performing at is our same old usual game. If we're really honest, if the results aren't inspiring us, or they're not the results we want, guess what? That's in your drift. Maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, maybe some of us are still dining out on breakthroughs we had 10 years ago. Who's still dining out on breakthroughs from 10 years ago? Anyone? Yeah, I am. And you're already very accomplished at certain things at a certain level, but if the results you're getting at the moment aren't the result you want, then consider that's your drift. That's your new level. And the drift kind of has its own dynamic. And around you, certain things happen and certain things don't happen. There'll be a common feature. Projects maybe come into light and then they disappear, or they're never actually fulfilled. Or you find that, there's got to be some accountancy firms that would jump on that opportunity. There must be. They've got to be. I will employ the right people. I will JV with the right types of people. But at the moment, the results that we're getting are leaving us less than inspired. I'm talking about those results. And inside the drift, what we need to confront is there's some things in play that are there regardless of our level of performance that we're taking maybe credit for. So the slide I've got for that is a bit like the farmer taking credit for the sun rising. The sun is going to rise anyway. There's certain things that are happening in your life and in your performance that will happen anyway. Now, the farmer, if he's smart, ploughs the field, gets the water, puts the seed down to make the most of the sun rising. But the sun rising is going to happen anyway. Make sense? There's a whole load in our performance that would happen anyway that we really can't take too much credit for. Yeah, and I think last time I delivered this, we had Mitch Herber in the room, and Mitch is a printer. I said, Mitch, the phone rings every day and someone asks for some printing, don't they? He goes, yeah, but I worked hard for that. I said, yeah, well, how long ago? Proves the point. There's certain things that are already going to happen, and it's of no unusual or extraordinary performance. That's our drift. Okay. And it's interesting, because I don't think we really want to look at that. Because we're dining out on some of that performance. Well, I worked hard on that. When was the last time you really worked hard on it, Mitch? 5, 10 years ago, possibly? I worked hard on it. And if you're really honest, and if you look at your performance, there'll be a certain level of performance that's purely repeatable and it'll come over and over. That isn't anything extraordinary. Okay. Now, I want to ask, what impacts the drift? What do you think impacts the drift? So there's this same old behaviour, same old performance. What do you think we can do to impact that drift?
Change the behaviour.
Change behaviour, yeah?
Change the focus. Change the focus.
Change the focus. So off one thing to another?
Yeah.
Or we talk about focus in terms of depth?
Either and both.
Either and both, okay. Metaphor works both ways, I guess. Okay. What else?
So, because indirectly your focus is on the past,
Hmm.
the drift, if you like. So it's refocusing on what you'd love, or whatever the other thing is.
Well, going from what you just said, focus on the bat, yeah? On the, yeah.
You've got to recognise that the drift came on in the first place.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes. So there could be a performance drift that feels like I'm paddling really hard, but I'm not going anywhere because it's my same old, same old.
Yeah.
And if we're really honest about that, it might not be too inspiring because who's really working hard? And yet this is it, right? This is it. No more, no less, this is it.
Yeah.
And then we look at it and we go, and it's like getting over that wall. There's always something missing that we want to achieve. And that kind of leaves us unfulfilled and frustrated and all those things.
It's a bit like, so if you go to the gym and you keep doing the same exercises, after a while, you're not getting any more results because you've changed the exercises you've got to do.
Bingo, very good metaphor, yeah. So what's going to impact the drift? Change, okay. Right, okay, well, your commitment's not going to change it. Your commitment's not going to impact the drift. Because commitment is in what? In language. Your commitment, if you want to know what anyone's committed to in life, just look at their current results, that's what they're committed to. Yes, I want to be 11 and a half stone, but I'm not. I'm 14 probably, or 13 and a half. You want to know what I'm committed to? I am totally committed to being 14 stone. Because that is what I've got. But what do we say? I want to lose some weight. I want to get fit. I want a new man. New woo man. One of each. Depending on your crowd. You see my point? So what you say you're committed to, forget that. Just look at what you got. That's what you're committed to. So your commitment doesn't change the drift. Doesn't impact the drift. Hard work, it doesn't do it either. What was the quote? All fury and...
All sound and fury signifying nothing.
Yes. Thank you. At least someone's educated in this crowd. In fact, I had to Google that the other day because I mentioned it and I couldn't find it. All sound and fury signify nothing. That's what your hard work gets you. Is it your stand? I know, literally, the genius lot I did before this one was, it's your stand. But no, it's not your stand. Not in this case. Not in this example. So that goes contrary. And then, you know, about your feelings. But no, I feel this time this is the one. This is the one. This company is going to be different. This woman's going to be different. This man. Yeah, no, it's not the feelings either. Dynamics. Yeah, one thing about the drift is the things start to have their own dynamics. They work a certain way. People behave a certain way around you, Phyllis. You've trained them to behave that way.
Yeah.
Who are the unapproachable people in the room? Are you hard to get close to? Yeah.
In my ego.
Yeah.
Sure.
Oh. So your drift, you know, you find you've got your drift, but then you probably find you hang around and you've created a drift perception around you. You know, imagine if people were thinking about organising some event or party. Would they invite you?
Yes. Oh.
Well, that says a lot about you, Phyllis. Yeah, no, you've got to have Phyllis there, it'll be wild. Tequila shots, it'll just go crazy.
Especially if there's dancing.
Especially if they're dancing, well. Who are the dancers in the room? See me after the show? Right, okay. So get a tugboat, that's the other one. Get something to bolt onto that will pull you through the drift.
Right.
Yeah, who are the attachment merchants? Yeah. Oh, it's really enlightening to admit it. Because we do sometimes, don't we? The new client will be your pull through the drift. That'll get me through, because I'll be earning X amount a month and I won't have to go foraging for a few weeks.
Do you think sometimes collaboration is what we foresee?
I would say yes.
Tugboaters through the drift.
Yes. What we've said before, collaboration isn't the new fix. Because you've still got to deal with who you are in the game, in the drift.
You're always going to take yourself wherever you go.
Yes. Was it the Eagles song, don't let the sound of your own wheels drive you crazy. At the end of the day, you're playing your game. So how do we create performance outside of that game? So, I want to say before I get into that, is there's only one thing that really, really, really impacts the drift in terms of this presentation. What do you think that might be? And you all know the answer, especially if you saw this last week at Hartford. Yeah. Carol looks blank, she's like, well, I don't know, I can't remember. You did a genius slot.
Changing your beliefs?
Very good, very close, but not what I'm looking for. And that could impact what I'm looking for, your beliefs. But really, do we change our beliefs? Do we actually go out intentionally to shift our beliefs?
If we're smart?
Do we do that though? Do we?
Battle of Evermore.
Yeah.
Not going away.
They come back quick as well, don't they? Like the tide, it comes back. I thought I got rid of that, now it's back again. What shifts the drift?
Well, I think a mindset shift can shift it.
Yes, I think it can.
Well,
But is that enough to shift the drift? Oh, I've had an enlightened moment. Boom! Light bulb's gone on. Now what?
Do something.
Yes, exactly. So insight without action leaves the drift going off in its own way. Because how many times have we had insight and yet the action hasn't shifted? So remember, if you want to know what someone's committed to, look at what the results are right now. That's what they're committed to. Because we can have insight.
If you've just said hard work doesn't work, then it's taking different action.
Exactly. That's my next slide.
Oh, sorry.
She's seen it before.
She's looking at the notes from last. Listen, do you want to do this? You think this is easy?
Sorry, just having a moment.
It's all right. Glad you've been listening. So, not any old action. Not any old action, because the old action would be producing very similar or the same results. Now, it's not just the action, because we've done it before, they said, didn't they? We've tried that before. I've done it like that and it didn't work. Or I've been doing it a certain way and it's still... How many people, we all know the definition of insanity, doing the same thing over and over again, wanting different results.
You can get different results from doing the same thing over and over again.
I know, because everything's moving and changing. But my point is this, is if you are... Who's knocking on that door? Who are you when you're knocking on that door? So you may be taking actions, but who is the being behind the action? Who's taking the action? So not any old action. So the kind of action we're talking about is action in the domain of context. In the domain. Who's knocking on their door? Who's making that prospecting call? Who's having that sales conversation? Who's asking for those referrals? Who is it really asking? So language is a key activator in the outcome. See, I think before you're going to talk to accountants, you've really got to work out who accountants are for themselves and for you, personally. Because when we think accountant, there's a whole lot of stuff there straight away. So if I'm talking to, for example, if I'm talking to accountants thinking, oh, they're just a bunch of left-brain, risk-averse, past-based muppets. Hi, can I work with you? I'm not saying you do that, but I have. Give you a certain result.
Yeah, but if you think of it maybe as a business owner, then it might be a different way that you're approaching it.
I would say.
Yeah.
I would say. But also, running is not action. The word running is not action, is it? So certain language gives us facility. So if I'm knocking on the door and I don't know that I think accountants are real idiots and if they only let me close to their clients, then maybe I could help them. I'd have to confront that before I knock on the door. Because the action won't produce the result because who's doing the action? So running is not an action. Running is what? The word running is...
It's a gerund.
Is a...
Gerund.
I don't even know what that means.
It's when you make a noun out of a verb.
Yes, it's a description, isn't it?
Right.
It's describing something.
Right.
Right. So that kind of language isn't going to work, isn't going to get us out of the drift. The kind of language we're pushing for is a promise in action. It's a different type of communication. When you say I promise, or who here is married or has been married, when you said I do, what happened? There's a declaration. At that point you became married. That language is different to description. Declaration language is different. So who am I for those accountants? Have I really thought that out? Have I really thought out who am I in relation to those results I want to produce? Have I created a way of being that I'm going to operate from in action? Like a must. Like this is a happening result, not a running result. It's a promised result. So action is not part of the drift. I would look at something you would not normally ever do inside your context. So you create a context and then new actions would arise. So, and we may not get this done now because I've got 5 minutes. But who could you reinvent yourself as when you go back and talk to those accountants?
I think it's always about having a conversation with
Sure.
them and understanding what their needs are and how you can support them.
Is that your drift or is that new?
Is that my truth?
Drift.
I don't know, I'm trying to connect with that word.
So drift would be, is that something you've said before?
Probably.
Yeah, that's drift. That's
Probably,
fine. Yeah.
because I'm doing it in the game quite a long time.
Yeah.
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 But that, I think it's quite wise.
But inside the drift, of course it's wise.
But I'm not saying it couldn't be wiser.
No, and I'm not. I don't know what it could be for you. You may go home on the way home and go, oh, And bang, epiphany. I never thought of that before. I could approach that in a completely different way than I've ever done before. That's outside the drift. But we don't operate like that. We operate inside the drift. Well, this should work. I know what I'm doing. I've done it before. That's drift.
But if we're coaches, we really ought not to be operating in what we call the drift. We ought to be
But you're human.
always operating in an expanded way.
Yes, I'd invite that.
You always eat healthy, go to bed early.
Yes, yes.
Not drink too
Not drink that last beer.
Be superhuman, really.
Put that cigarette down and don't date that woman. She's going to ruin you. You know that.
Definitely not going pepperoni, so
Sorry? So, you know, it could leave you like, well, what is that outside my drift?
Is that Steve Twister?
No, that's me. It's like, "Urgh!"
This drift thing, is that your word?
No, I'll tell you the source of it later. I don't want to pollute the space with that right now. Because then people start going into, oh, I know this word, I don't know this word, where did it come from? Forget that, I'm just engaging you. Okay. So action from the future, not the past, is outside the drift. So how do you currently justify your results? Well, through time, your circumstances, the market, the abilities, your contacts, the money you have. You'll find there'll be some kind of explaining the result inside your normal performance. It's not good timing for them, they're not interested, or the story about what they're about or what they're not about or what I'm about. And it gets explained. And it's like, okay, cool, that's all drift. So if you took away all that reasoning and reasonableness about your performance, you'd go, well, what could I do here? If all bars, was it all holds up, anything, we could do anything. No holds barred, who would we be? If that was really the way we were operating and taking our game on at that level, what would we produce?
I think we could challenge our third parties about them operating within their drift as a door opener.
There you go. That could be a new conversation,
Could be a new conversation.
if they're open to it.
It's always good to
Yeah.
do something a bit different.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm not talking about doing different, I'm talking about being different. So inside the realm of fear, scarcity and competition, consider our performance is wholly shaped by the big paradigm. Because who here doesn't have fear when they think they want to produce some new result? Fear of... How does fear come into the game when we want to produce a result beyond the predictable? You know, if I said to you, right, I'm going to take you out now, I'm going to put you in front of 2,000 people, go, tell them all your best stuff. You'd shit yourself. Not you. You would though. You would. Right, David, we've got a car waiting outside, we're going down to Royal Albert Hall, you've got 3,000 people, go tell them everything you want to tell them. Ah! That fear is paradigm level fear. We're so conditioned to it, it's our first protocol. Scarcity, there's not enough. Competition, someone's going to beat me to it, I've got to be better than this. Okay, I've got to really go. So a case for a case for action in being. Work with performance in mind and heart. You know, really look at your performance at a level of something I can manage my performance. Not the results, the performance. We focus so much on the result, we don't actually go, well, how am I performing? What level am I committed to performing at? You know, clearing what's showing up right now. So if you've got a concern about saying something, notice it and let it park and then go again with a new level of being. Because you'll find we say the same stuff over and over again. We do. Because it worked 10 years ago, 5 years ago. So we hold on to it. And I'm going to give you this last thought to go home with. Lose yourself in generous service, and every day can be the most unusual day, a triumphant day, and abundantly rewarding day. Imagine that every day, through your being and engagement with reality, your action, you're having the experience of fulfillment and abundance. Like, this was enough, Anne, today. You got the job done. Tomorrow you can up the game again. You know? Like, take on that you can up the game today. Before you leave here today, take on something that you haven't been taking on. And the problem with doing is quite often we know a lot of things to do, but we don't do them. We operate inside the comfort zone or inside our drift, And there's a few things here, as Gill's put on a list of things you can take on, and you'll go, yeah, I know all those things. But how many of them are you really doing with performance in mind? I'm doing this video, bang, 4. I'm doing this blog, 4. I came to the BeCollaboration meeting today, members and guests, for what? What would be a miraculous result? And that's what I'm inviting you to do, is take on your performance as something you manage. Yeah? And if it's inside the drift, don't be surprised the results aren't going to be too inspiring. Outside of that, who knows? Anything could happen. Thank you very much. I'm going to pass this out. Thanks.